Hello, I am David, and I am here to talk to you today about how in the hell Denver is 6-2. I haven't been around for a while, but I just could not stay quiet anymore. They're doing things I did not know they could. But before we get into that, we're gonna talk about my new lovely wall. We're gonna fill this up with some cool trinkets over time. We got the best guy in the world on the wall, and we're gonna sit here and talk about the fantastic start Denver's having while we have a beer. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Or actually, let's go back and get some context. Then start from the beginning. So at the end of last season, everyone remembers it ended with Denver getting blown out by Buffalo in Buffalo by a whopping 30-something points. And even though we started immediately by scoring a deep touchdown to Troy Franklin and giving us all false hope that we had a chance in that game, all the momentum was there and we were riding it, no pun intended, with Russell Wilson's stupid contract, into next season. And if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels and his iconic rookie season, everyone would be talking about how great Bo Nix was. But that's neither here nor there. So, going to training camp this year, everyone was so excited. People were talking about Super Bowl, which I personally thought was crazy. But, I won't complain. And especially since we had the offseason additions of J.K. Dobbins and Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, who unfortunately I was worried about getting hurt, and he did get hurt, or was never healthy to begin with. But he's back now, or now. We'll see how long that lasts. But, so going to training camp, everyone was looking good. The defense was looking amazing. Everyone thought we were going to, beat the 2015 Broncos defense, which I thought that's one hell of a defense to try to top, but it's possible. The only thing I was worried about was the offense, because at times, yes, we looked good, but I felt like we spent more time looking bad than good. So, going into the season now, we'll start week 1 at Tennessee. I was skeptical. I was a little nervous with Egg, because I always get nervous when Denver plays rookie quarterbacks, because you don't know what you're getting. Especially with week 1 of Cam Ward, there was zero film on this dude. And that terrified me. But we basically did what we do every year for the last few years in week 1. Except we won, but it was still like we barely squeaked by, instead of just barely losing, which Denver's terrible one-score games, which even though so far this year it's going good, minus our 2 losses, which still piss me off to this moment. But going to Tennessee, we absolutely harassed Cam Ward. I mean, we had, 5 sacks. It was going well. And then we went into week 2, which is where the pain starts. We were playing the Colts. Everything was going well. And then, of course, the last drive needed to have a stop, which we did. It was like a 62-yard field goal or something, and somehow we get a fucking leverage penalty. I didn't even know what a leverage penalty was, nor have I ever heard of it until that moment.
Personal foul, leverage, defense number 96.
That's a huge, oh my goodness. That is a huge penalty. Well, it's right in the middle here. You see the leverage jumping over the top.
And I still honestly don't know what it is. I feel like it's just some weird form of offsides or something. But anyways, so that gave them, before they kicked it again, they missed the 62-yarder. So then it bumped them up. I think a leverage penalty was 15 yards. Why it is, I have no idea. And then they make that and win. And then I was just livid because, 1, I don't know what leverage penalty is. And 2, after listening to everyone else out there, nobody understood why it was called. And especially, it's one thing to call it, and it being a dumb call, but to call it right when it matters most really pissed me off. And if it wasn't for that, the Colts and us would be tied at 6-2. And we would be first in the conference because we would have the tiebreak over them. But that is in the past. And then we go to the next week against the Chargers. And I don't know what it is with divisional games, but every time we play divisional games or just in general, if I was a sports gambler and I bet, I would always take the under on everything because divisional games, especially when we play them, are always low scoring. So that happened. We lost 23-20 because yet again, another last-second field goal. And we were 1-2. I was sitting there. I remember when I was watching. I wasn't watching it on TV, but I was keeping up with the score on ESPN. And I saw that happen, and I'm like, great, they're 1-2. We're just going to have this whole thing that's been all the last 10 years where we're just going to fucking hover and hover, just be good enough to, like, get to over 500, maybe make a playoff game again, or just do what we've done the last 8 or 9 years before that and go, like, 6-11 or 7-10 or some stupid thing and have, like, a 12th to 14th draft pick, not a top-tier player, and then we're just going to keep being mid until people start making comparisons to us and the Jets, and I was going to be scared. But that's a tangent for another time. But anyway, so that week 4 was obviously, I believe, the first game that the Bengals had without Joe Burrow, which is good because I didn't feel confident in us ever winning a shootout. So I felt like we had to win the game 1 because we needed to get back to 2-2. And the second reason, it was Jake Browning. It's one thing to lose a shootout. I can survive. It is what it is. But if we lost to a shootout to Jake Browning, I would have lost my shit. But luckily for us, we destroyed him 28-3. So that was nice. It's not often Denver plays with a huge lead. I'm usually stressing until the clock hit 0 in the fourth quarter. So luckily we didn't have that problem this time. But we had the momentum. We were 2-2. Unfortunately, I think at the time we were tied with the Chargers at top of the division at 2-2. I could be wrong. Maybe they were 3-1 at the time. But having that tiebreaker loss to the Chargers when we were fighting, because the Raiders are the Raiders, they're always going to suck. And the Chiefs were doing surprisingly bad. I was like, holy shit, we might have a chance here. But with the tiebreaker, we were always going to be half game behind unless we got ahead. So then, going to the next week was when all this craziness starts. When we play the Eagles. Pretty much from this point on is when I started watching all of Denver's games, and I don't know what was going on. But like I was saying earlier, when I was worried about Denver's defense being average or below average, as they always are, we won this game, and we haven't beaten the Eagles since like the 80s or something, or the 90s, and I was very worried. We go into this game, it's fourth quarter, we're down 17-3, and I'm like, oh, great, we're so screwed. And I remember at the time, I was out with one of my buddies, and I was looking at my phone, and we were down 17-3. I was like, well, this is great. I check, it was probably 20 minutes later, and all of a sudden, we're up 18-17. I'm fucking flipping out, and I'm like, how do we end up with 18 after being at 3 points? Then I saw that Sean Payton scored a touchdown, made 17-16. He had balls to go for 2 against Philly, of all teams. I was like, oh my gosh, don't do this. This is going to go terribly because when this kind of thing comes up, we do not have luck on our side. But somehow, we did it. I watched it like 10 times afterwards, and Troy Franklin, I believe, or was Marvin Mims, I can't remember who it was, barely snuck that little flat route in. Barely. But you know what? It counts. Okay, you get the ball in your hand, you cross the plane, you're good. And that's what happened. So, people, I was freaking out. I was, after that game, I'm like, oh my gosh, we just beat the defending champs. We can beat anybody now. And you can watch all the guys online, like Colin Cowherd and, Nick Wright and all those guys that I listen to pretty regularly. And they were all saying Denver needed to win this to prove that they can beat anybody. If you can beat the Super Bowl champs, or the defending Super Bowl champs, you can beat anybody. Which gave me false hope because I am so used to us having a good win and then absolutely flopping the next week. And I don't know if we flopped because the week after that was the Jets game. And I don't know what it is when Denver plays the Jets, but every time Denver plays the Jets, it is the most boring game on the planet. I don't know why, because maybe it's because typically we both have really good defenses when we play, and it just seems to be in a slugfest. But right now, or at the time, it's probably still true, honestly, because it's only been a couple weeks, but I thought the Jets' defense was ass. And so I was like, oh, shoot, we might be able to throw over them. Plus, Justin Fields was terrible. I mean, the team was 0-5 at this point, or 0-6, whatever it was. And we were like, okay, we should blow these guys out by 30 points. But no, we won 13-11 in London. And I'm not sure if it's because they were across the the world in London and all the sleep deprivation and all that maybe was it. But oh my gosh, I wasn't watching another game. I was out of town on vacation. I had no internet, so I didn't see anything. I didn't actually know what the score of the game was till the following day. So I saw that. I was reading the stats. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not there. And then I started exploring, seeing the highlights, and it turns out, everyone said it was the most boring game on planet Earth to watch. I was like, okay, I'm not mad about the fact that they lost. So, or actually, sorry, they won, but barely won in the most boring way known to man. It was like that Colts game a couple years ago when we lost 9-6 or something like that. It was just nothing but field goals. I watched that game. That was painful as all hell to watch. But anyways, so I was very worried about going into the week after that against the New York Giants. Because this is when Jackson Dart was, he was soaring high. He was riding high. And all of a sudden, Cam Scadaboo, who was a guy I always raved about coming out of college. Because after I watched the Arizona State game in the playoffs, I was like, holy shit, this guy's going to be great. But the one knock on him with his, he's a bigger guy. He was kind of slower. That was his knock on him. Somehow he fell to the third round. I couldn't believe it. And shocker, once he gets out of Russell Wilson's hands, because, everyone sucks with Russell Wilson, but for some reason people still keep thinking that he can have the glory days come back. But anyways, I'm going to get on a tangent about Russell Wilson. That's not happening right now. So anyways, we're going into this game. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're playing a team they're soaring. They've won 2 or 3 in a row after starting 0-3. They are riding high. All the momentum is in their hands after we just barely snuck out against the Jets in London. And truth be told, they were ass. 3 quarters, they were shut out 19-0. Going into the 4th quarter, I remember I was sitting in my room. I had the game on, but I was like, okay, we're down 19-0. I'm just going to have it on the background. I'm just going to sit around my phone. It was exactly what I did. And then I look, and then they score the first touchdown. And I'm like, oh, yay, we're not getting shut out. And then they just kept scoring and scoring. And they just kept going for 2 and for 2. And I'm like, why are we all of a sudden going for 2 so often? And why is it working so consistently? And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. And then it was like, I don't know, was it 5 minutes left? And then we scored to take the lead. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going great. I started flipping out. One of my buddies called me, and I was absolutely screaming. He was laughing his ass off so hard on the phone. Well, I was losing my shit. And then they responded. And I was like, oh, come on. And then we responded. And they went back and forth a couple times until the Giants on their final drive drove down and scored. And we had, 37 seconds left, I believe. And I was like, oh my gosh, if we can continue to explode like we have, we can win this. All we need is a field goal to win because they fucking missed the PAT. I was like, oh my gosh. Because if we went to overtime, I had zero faith in us winning an overtime game. And if we had a tie on our record, it would just piss me off because I got OCD, and seeing the tie there would drive me insane. Now in hockey, that's normal. But in the NFL, why is tie still a thing? Again, another tangent I could go off of, but I won't. But anyways, so all we needed was to get the field goal range. And boom, first play, he throws 30 yards to Marvin Mims. And I was sitting there thinking, he wasn't meaning to throw to him. I mean, his ass was on the ground, and he was just, I think he fell and just somehow fell into his lap because Cortland Sutton was running a crossing route right in front of him. And I thought that's where he was aiming, but he threw it behind him a little bit. But since Marvin Mims caught it, I just don't really understand what the goal to play was, but it worked out. I was like, okay, shit. We had 0 times up. They were running 100 miles an hour to try to spike it. Oh, spike it with 15 seconds or something around there. And then again, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. One more decent play, get it out of bounds. And then he throws an absolutely beautiful back shoulder throw to Cortland Sutton. And I literally fell on the floor screaming. My buddy's still on the phone this whole time. He's laughing so hard. It was so funny. But anyways, I was like, oh my gosh, we now have to kick a field goal to win. And if anybody out there, who I'm assuming most people watching this are probably Broncos fans, know that us last second field goals is never good. I mean, last year when the Chiefs blocked our kick to win, and then obviously we've lost both these games this year by last second field goals. I knew luck was not going to be on our side. So I'm sitting there like this, trying to half look and not, I didn't want to know the truth. And then I saw the kick, it went up and in, and everyone started celebrating. I'm like, I sat there, I'm like, no, this is not happening. There's no way this is right. I was sitting there, I'm like, just call a flag for something stupid. Someone jumped or something, push it back. And then it never happened. And I'm like, holy shit, we won. And I'm not kidding you. I stood up and like threw my chair, and I swore, to this day, I can't believe I did. I live in an apartment. I could not believe I did not get a noise complaint from that. It was absolutely insane. Like, I've never seen in my, I don't know how many years I've been watching this team now, at least 10, 12. I've never seen such an insane win. And I was like, holy shit. If you beat the defending champs 3 weeks before or 2 weeks before this, and then you come in here and you come back and score 33 points in the fourth quarter, which has only happened a handful of times, and never once has that big of a lead ever been overcame with only 5 minutes left. At that point, I think we're down like 2 scores, maybe it was 3. And I was like, holy shit, we can do anything. We beat the defending champs. We came back and scored 33 unanswered in the fourth. And I was like, oh my gosh. But the one thing that I knew, where I was worried about, and I knew everyone else was going to point out, is you can't go 0-0-0 in the first 3 quarters and then score 33 in the fourth. You can't survive like that. So I was like, okay, we got the Cowboys next week. And I was like, what we're going to do? We're fucked. Like, yes, Denver's defense is amazing. I mean, we're up like 10, 12 sacks ahead of everyone else in sacks this year. Granted, we don't really get turnovers that often. I mean, we have like 2-3 combined interceptions on the whole team. We've only got a handful of forced fumbles. And I was like, this is the best offense in football with the Dallas Cowboys. Granted, their defense sucks. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably going to end up being a shootout. Like, we're going to have to win a shootout against Dallas. And I have zero faith in that happening. Because our offense against their shitty defense is not a bigger gap in our favor than our defense to their offense. But luckily, we just kept riding this high from the Giants game and scored, 44 points. And obviously, they scored 24, but their last touchdown was Joe Milton on a garbage time. So we held Dak's offense to 17 points. And CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were both held under 75 yards, which is insane. And we made Dak look terrible. And I was like, oh my gosh. What can't go wrong? We are, at this moment I'm filming this is the most recent game we've played. It's against Dallas. We have a 5-game winning streak. We're tied with, I believe, only New England. There might be one other team that's also got a 5-game winning streak right now. And we are just soaring. We now have a 1-game lead on the division because the Chargers are, we're 6-2. The Chargers, I believe, are 5-3 or 4-3. I can't remember if they haven't had their bye yet. And Kansas City's right there with them, and obviously the Raiders are terrible at 1 or 2 wins. So as of this moment I'm filming this is the day before the Texans game. And we have, I don't even know what to expect anymore. I mean, I feel like we've won in every way possible. We've had a huge fourth quarter comeback. We've beaten top tier teams that win the Super Bowl, the Eagles. I don't know what can go wrong. I feel like at this point I should be more worried about us playing bad teams than us playing good teams. So I don't know. But the moral of the story is that this season is unlike anything I have witnessed with Denver in the last 10 years since Peyton Manning has retired. And Laurel and DeMarcus were retired, everyone else. Our team was kind of young at that point. All the old guys left. So we have had great hope so far. We're 6-2. I mean, we can. The Super Bowl talks are still going with this team through week 8. We're going to week 9. A huge conversation that is going to change no matter what happens Sunday. If we lose, those talks are going to quiet off a lot. But if we beat Houston with how good their defense is, who can't we beat? We could be favored in every single one of our games, minus probably Kansas City at home when we're at Kansas City, which unfortunately we still haven't played them yet, which scares me. But anyways, so going into this weekend on Sunday, my thoughts on this. I am worried about our offense against their defense. This is by far the best defense we're playing this year, so I am worried about Bo. But if we can keep their defensive line in check and Will Anderson and keep him quiet, and then we can just hopefully maybe get Cortland open a couple times. I know he's got Derek Stingley on him the whole time, or probably the whole time, unless because we also have Marvin Mims even ruled out. Obviously, now Pat Surtain's out and probably till after the bye, which sucks because we played one of our Chiefs games the week before the bye without him, which makes me worried, especially since now the Chiefs are getting healthy and rolling right now. But anyways, I think we can beat win that game against Houston because I think our offense against our defense is going to be more beneficial in our favor versus the Texans offense against our defense. So I'm thinking we should be able to win that game. I'm thinking probably like a 24 to like 17, 18 kind of game. And then the week after that, we have the Raiders. If we do not destroy the Raiders that game, I'm going to be pissed. Granted, it is a divisional game. And like I was saying earlier, all divisional games are usually pretty low scoring because you play each other so many times, you know the rhythms. But it also is the first time we're playing Geno Smith. So I don't know what to expect. But right now, I'm feeling great about this team. I'm still nervous because I'm so used to being let down with a little bit of hope after we get some and then we crush it next week that I'm still skeptical. We'll see how we're doing after the bye. But until then, if we can go into the bye, win over the Chiefs, I will be ecstatic. Because I believe this weekend we're on the road, and those 2 games after that against the Raiders and Chiefs are at home, which is good. And we can stay home for 3 weeks before we go and play the Commanders on Monday night, which I can't wait for that. So that's my thoughts and everything. We've been sitting here enjoying a drink. And for what the future is looking like for me and this channel, I've spent a lot of time the last week and a half getting this all set up. I mean, you guys can't really tell, but this podium I built here took me 3 days. I spent all this time painting and everything else. And I went out and got this lovely jacket, which I hope you guys like. I'm going to start wearing it more often. I'm going to start streaming again games. I want to start going more broadening out with this channel with start streaming all of the Denver sports because I've watched Broncos, and then I'll still stream the Thursday night game if I can, Sunday night, Monday night, we'll see. Then I want to see if I can stream Nuggets games or the Avalanche. I'm much more into hockey than basketball, but I want to be able to not lose my drive when the Broncos aren't playing, especially during the offseason. And that's when I want to start streaming Nuggets and Avs. And there's just that one little downtime, in the middle of the summer, there's nothing because I'm not watching the Rockies because they're ass, and 2, I can't stand baseball. So, but that is where the future is looking like for now. I'm going to see if I can maybe get another video out. I'm going to try to stream the game tomorrow. We'll see if that happens. I've got a family thing in the afternoon, so we'll see. But that is the plan. I am David, sitting here talking, having a beer with you in this beautiful, sexy suit, and I will see you guys next time.